Hello, I'm Debbie. I want to thank you for coming to this room. Today, while I allow everyone to come on in and trickle in at their leisure,
Oh,
I wanted to
hi.
just, hi, Arden. I was just about to introduce you. Hi, this is Arden. She's here.
Oh my God. I was technologically just making sure I was in. Sorry.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm glad you can hear me because I also did not tech check. I wanted to make sure that everyone can hear my voice. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You sound good.
You
We
sound good.
we have opposite ends of the vocal spectrum.
That's true. I feel like Katelyn is actually right in between us in terms of,
Perfect.
yeah, the vocal spectrum. It's,
Hello.
hi,
Uh,
Katelyn.
Hey, Caitlin.
Oh
Hi.
my God, I'm so happy. The
Nice to
three of us
meet
all hanging.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you. We have a full like a cappella. We have all the vocal tones that we need.
That's right.
Yes. Oh, were you
That's
guys
right.
talking about voice tone?
Yes,
Yeah.
she was saying that
Mm.
we have the opposite ends of the vocal spectrum, which is quite fun.
I'm a
Yeah.
lot. I'm a lot.
Um, well, while everyone is coming in, I should just let everyone know I'm seeing you guys' thumbs up and I'm seeing you guys' hearts, and that is very meaningful. It's nice
Oh,
to be able to
very.
see what people are into. So, you guys are talking, and this is great. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. So, basically, before we get started, I just wanted to make this an extra special event because I have two very special creative ladies joining us who I've known sort of separately for a while. Katelyn and I met when she was on Big Time Rush and I was on, and that's on Nickelodeon, and I was on Disney. So we're star-crossed friends, and we've been through all of it together. We've been around each other while everything has sort of evolved and devolved and fluctuated and changed. And in addition to being an actor, a true multi-hyphenate, she's like super talented singer-songwriter. And so she has her new album coming out soon. She's released two singles so far, with another one imminent. So last time I saw Katelyn, I explained to her that I was just like emo, like I was like properly like weeping listening to her song, and was like, "Oh, Warner girl, this is relentless." It's so good. It gets you right in the gut. So make sure you pre-order her album. That's Katelyn Tarver.
Yay. Thank you
Yay!
so
Yay.
much,
I,
Debbie.
wa-
Yeah.
I, I
I'm
was
glad you're
listening to you
here.
on Spotify this morning and also feeling weepy.
Yeah, it'll get
I
you.
know.
There should be a
I
disclaimer.
It was
There
beautiful.
should. There
It's
honestly should
beautiful.
be. There should be a bit of a disclaimer. I know. I feel like you and I ran into each other kind of out and about, Debbie, at
Hmm.
kind of like, it was like, we're out. It's the weekend, we're doing this. And you were like, hey, yeah. So I was like sobbing to your song this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
was
oh
like,
God, yeah, so sorry. I'm really sorry about that.
I was like, well, now let's go dance and be happy. But I do just want to say, like, you brought me to my knees. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
and you do have quite such a specific sense of humor that I love a lot. And so I love that it's like there's no sort of pretense or self-importance, and it really
Yeah.
just operates in honesty. And
Oh,
speaking of humor, we have Arden. Arden is a comedian and she's an author, and I watched her on Mad TV and in all of her roles, and I then got to meet her on Insatiable and work with her on Insatiable, and I was like, oh, she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in the way that I am. I
Yeah.
need to take her home with me in my life, in my menagerie of lovely people. And then she took me home to Little Compton, Rhode Island with her,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she got me into watching The Bachelor. She asked me to write the foreword of her book, Little Miss Little Compton.
Hey,
And
girl.
she's also just a true brilliant badass. She is tactful at deftly navigating anything that life throws your way, and has been a very important voice in my life in the pandemic. And you guys should read her book if you haven't, because her voice is amazing. And that's like, I love both of these women because of their ability to switch hit between lightness and the real shit that happens. So welcome, Arden
Oh my
Marie.
God. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
love you. You are I met you and I was just like, this is my spirit animal. Like, I just immediately was like, that's my friend. That's my friend.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's my
loved it.
friend. How
That's
how
my
are
friend.
how are things, you guys?
Oh, how are
Things
things?
are so good.
Things are
Yeah,
so really thriving right now, Debbie. So good.
there's a cross stitch in Arden's home that says things are so good, you guys. Um,
That's like a pet peeve of mine when I feel like let's be real, like life is a whole bouquet of all of it. You know, like it's good, it's bad, it's everything. But my pet peeve is when you run into people and you're like, "How are you?" Like, "Oh my God." I just like things are so good. I'm like crazy busy. I can't tell you what it is. There's just a lot going on, but I'm like, things are really good. I'm just crazy. I'm
I hate,
crazy.
I hate I'm crazy busy.
Crazy
Oh
busy.
God. Yeah, I do feel
Yeah.
like at least the pandemic like leveled the playing field on
Oh,
that.
thank
It's like,
That's
are
God.
true.
you?
Thank
That's true.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you're doing well, like just go
Keep it
go
to
run a
yourself.
yeah, no
Yeah.
one
Keep it
cares.
to yourself. Keep it to
Also,
yourself.
if you're doing well, like you're actually like sick in a different way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, the world is
you're
on fire. We're all hanging on by a thread. Like,
A
yeah, you're
thread.
like we're choosing it, the active choice. Yeah. So actually, our first of 5 questions, and I wanted to get right into it, is
Ooh.
is
I'm
so
nervous.
don't be nervous.
it's the first question. Will you Venmo me $17,000?
My first question is, can you guys check your Venmo? You'll see a special request. I've just been really busy.
Crazy.
Crazy
It's
busy.
so good. Thriving. I'm
Things are
thriving.
so good, you guys.
So good.
Um,
Thriving.
so
Thriving.
the first thing I wanted to talk about is because of the last year and a half, so many things, like Katelyn, like you said it perfectly, like it leveled the playing field and things have really shifted in terms of, I think a lot of our, like for me it was a really big sort of priority shift, like what was important, and realizing that like this whole thing stopped things that wouldn't, like systems and momentums that would not have stopped for much less than a true
Mm.
global pandemic. And there was a perspective of being like, oh, I've lost people that I care about, and I haven't seen people that I'm used to seeing, and taking fellowship and community for granted in relationships. It really brought a new awareness and an intentionality of the things that I thought were really important, sort of, getting this project in on time and going and checking out this new whatever cultural thing, that those things actually were not as important. And it really shifted my priorities. So I just wanted to ask you guys, what was the biggest shift in your priorities in terms of where your time went, where your mental energy went, how you related to yourself and others? What sort of was the biggest or most notable shift in priority that is still prevalent? Katelyn, you want to start?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of what you said, it was crazy to kind of, and it was like just almost like this immediate like halt to everything that you did during the day. Like, I mean, it was so intense and crazy. So like, I feel like the first kind of like the first part of the pandemic, I was just sort of like reeling. Like I just was like, wait, so because I felt like,
Yeah.
like a lot of things were in motion. It's like, oh, I've got this thing to look forward to, and this and this. And then it was like, oh no, none of that's happening. And I felt like I was like, wait, like trying to like grab the pieces as they were all falling.
Yeah.
And, but there was a sense of comfort that came from like, oh, everyone's going through this. And I still feel that now, even like, this is something we're all kind of experiencing together. But I guess for me, like, funny enough, like, I feel like the biggest shift was like, I'm very extroverted. I love social events. I love dinners. I love parties. I love all these things. And I think taking that away sort of helped bring some clarity to my work in a sense. Like I'm a musician, I'm a songwriter, and I've really been focusing on that for the past few years. And I think it helped even bring a deeper level of like, okay, if I am going to make something, if I am going to make music or write about my point of view or my life or my experiences, like I really need to like go deeper and like make stuff that feels like it has some meat to it, I guess. Like, and not that I wasn't doing that before, but I think without like all the distractions of stuff to do and things and people to see and yeah, like things that you feel are super important. It was like, what am I really bringing to the songs? What am I putting in it? And like
Wow.
really wanting to take it a lot deeper. And I think, I don't know, it just helped me invest in myself more of like, okay, if I'm gonna, it was like, let's get to the root of everything all at once. Like it was just like,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
so I think in that way it was difficult, because I think it's easier to kind of like distract yourself with stuff. And when there's always stuff to do, it's like, oh, what do I think about this? Oh, I'll just like go to that party or go to this dinner or whatever. And so I think
Yeah.
that all going away kind of helped me zero in on like, okay, what am I doing here in music, or
The stories that you're telling and what you're
yeah,
bringing
the
to
stories
it.
I'm telling. And I
Yeah.
don't know. So I don't know. That's like one thing that came to mind. I don't know, when thinking about like what's shifted for me. I feel like
Yeah.
I've just put more energy into that.
That's so funny because I feel like obviously as we all went through the sort of stages of grief of like
Yeah,
figuring it out and not knowing how long to pace for, a lot of people maybe had the opposite reaction, which was
totally.
like, I can't do this right now. Like I can't, and then because it felt that they were too sort of raw, we were all too exposed to the world and too at the mercy of a world which has just slammed on its brakes and
Yeah.
become so shaky. And it felt like having an outlet and being uh like living authentically in the story, in our ability to work through things and tell those stories, actually became so scary for a lot of us. So I love that
Yeah.
you found that to be inspiring, and it feels like a brave, actually Chris Martin was on Pete Holmes' podcast and it was like an
Mm.
amazing episode. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things he actually talked about was like staying open and staying sensitive to the thing, and how like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who sort of medicate away from it or hide away from it or socialize away from it, and how his holding space for it makes him better at what he does, you know?
Well, yeah, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the like markers that you're trying to get to, like whether it's like a tour or a show or this amount of streams or this amount of numbers on a video. It's like those things can be so distracting from the art you're making in the first place that it's like, oh, it kind of took those opportunities away. It was like there isn't a show to look forward to. There isn't
Yeah.
like the ability to go film a thing. Like you had to like really, which I feel like is what we're always trying to do as like creatives, is like remind ourselves that it's not about the outcome, it's about like what you're making. And so I feel
Yeah.
like it was just like you were forced to kind of be like, oh, like, okay, I really do have to think about that. And
Yeah. And in a world
yeah.
of comparison too, where it was like, okay,
Yeah,
it's not just that I'm not, touring, it's that no one's touring.
no
So
one
now
is.
like,
Yeah,
like what am I making? Yeah.
for sure, for
Arden, what are
sure.
your thoughts?
Hi, I'm loving listening to this, and I completely.
Hi.
Hi, no, but
Hi.
hi. I really related. I actually, I think I had a similar feeling to both of you. Like there was, you know, I think for so many years, I was almost like a human doing, not a human being. Like I would just sort of like
Mm.
I love a list and I love to just like get things done and like I think I sort of lacked balance to some extent. And
Mm.
I think the gift of sort of the slowdown and then the elimination of all the sort of outside markers was, I think there was a real, like, I was sort of aware that this hopefully is like a once in a lifetime thing, that of like, okay, let me just take a pause here. And like, I think I added in more balance. Like now that a lot of things got eliminated just globally and then personally, and then sort of thinking, all right, I feel like I at least had less energy than normal. So it's like, what do I want to add back in? Like, and just I really trust my body. I really trust, like, as Debbie and I talked a lot about what makes your tail wag. So
Yeah.
whether that's like the simplicity of like, who do I want to talk to on the phone, or who would I like to socially distance, like see in my yard? And then creatively, I do feel like sort of the gift of being a little more raw to like what Katelyn was saying. I think it's I think I feel like in the past few years, I've, in my own life experienced like a lot of unexpected loss. And I was afraid that talking about that would be off-putting or would scare people. And I've actually felt, but I had sort of no other choice because my life was in session and, certain creative, I had a podcast and things happened while that was happening. And then I sold a book like right in the midst of sort of upheaval. And like in the past, I might have tried to just present a glossy front, but like I sort of had no skin in a bad but also good way. And then I had no other option but to just be like, okay, here's what's the truth of what's happening. And I found that it actually was the things that people like related to more because it's like
Wow.
there's grace in being like a real human being, and that it doesn't, like as we were saying earlier, like life isn't perfect. It's the whole, no one wants to hang out with a perfect person. And so I have found I've definitely prioritized more fun, like more being with my friends when I can. Like I actually got a hobby. I dusted off. I'm playing tennis again. It's the only sport I
Wow.
played through high school, and I quit. I was never good at it, but like, so I like take this weird clinic once a week that feels like I'm on jury duty. But like, but then like just having more ownership of my voice in a way. Like I've been pitching a show, and I've pitched shows in the past, but I would always like team up with somebody because like, oh, they're the real, it's like, no girl, like you wrote a book, you've sold shows, like take your seat at the table, this is your idea, like you be the one to pitch it,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
that's been, I think I found strength in like F it, like we're all like why not own your seat at the table at life, and no matter what you do, like that this is your story, this is your life, like take ownership of it. That's what I have found.
I love that.
I love that too. It's so empowering. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that also comes from like there's just less room for the things that weren't real. Like I think I
Yeah.
Yeah.
reflected on like how much I went into that didn't, like how much my energy went into that wasn't a real thing, or it wasn't a good use of time, or it was sort of like, you know, just extraneous energy put in a bunch of places that didn't enrich my life in any way and only led to burnout. And obviously, like, I don't know, capitalism, like the culture relies on us to be existing past our limits constantly and then be like looking for whatever they're trying to sell us to be like, oh,
Mm.
this will be the thing that fulfills me.
Mhm.
So I think like obviously, of course, for us to be able to like limit those things and be like, okay, great. So what is worth it? What am I actually bringing to it? To protect the art, you have to protect the artist. So let's like pour into ourselves and then pour that back into the thing that we're doing and then take ownership over the thing that we're doing. I love that like tandem perspective.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. As one of my favorite thinkers says, oh, yeah. That's the Kool-Aid man.
Oh, yes. A wise man.
A
Wise
wise
man. A
beverage.
wise man.
Um, destructive, but aren't we all? So, Katelyn, it's funny because all of us are actors, but also you guys have different things in terms of like the venues of storytelling, whether it's like singing, it's songwriting, whether it's writing and doing stand up and your podcast. As far as these creative processes, they're all really informed by stories and the sort of like bizarre stories around us. And Arden, like reading your book, I was truly floored, being like, if I didn't know you so well, I would not believe that all of these things could be happening.
Yeah.
But I actually know you well enough to know that like you are sort of a magnet for hilarity and bizarreness and chaos. And that like reading that book, like, you're chuckling, reading that book, like and knowing as well. And then the same thing, Katelyn, like the opposite side of the same coin of me being like, how did you perfectly encapsulate in like 3 sentences such an ominous, like hard to nail down feeling that is so universally relatable but feels so hyper specific, like that, those gifts that you guys have as storytellers. I'm curious about your creative process now, sort of years into sharing those things, do you experience, because I like will dissociate sometimes. It's a thing that I work on, but like
Me
I will
too.
truly leave my body and be
Me
watching an
too.
experience. Yeah. Across the room. I feel, Arden, that sometimes both of our bodies have been in a room that we were not in.
Dude, there's so, I mean, like, sometimes it really works for me. Like, at some point in my life, I won't be here. Like, oh my God, yeah.
I'm
In
out.
all
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
Whether it's like
Yeah.
an awkward family holiday, like, you know, just make it through, like a crazy uncle saying something. Just hang out, you know, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as people who have experiences most of the time, I know that I sometimes will be in a moment or in a season of life or in a dynamic or just meet a person and be like, that's a character. Like this is a thing that is happening that I would, if I watched it on TV, I would be like, well, that's jumping the shark. That would never happen in real life. And it sort of is like truth is stranger than fiction. So when you guys are experiencing things, whether it is a sort of a heartache or a trauma or a loneliness or an excitement or a confusion or just a weird story, and like a weird sort of parking mishap or an interaction in a grocery store, that you're like, this is a story, whatever medium it may or may not get told through. Are you experiencing it sort of from the inside, or are you experiencing it as the storyteller who's looking for a way to like frame it and shape it? Does that make sense? And like, how
Yeah.
does your creative process sort of play into that?
I feel like I definitely watched, like, I do feel like there is a storyteller element. Like, sometimes I love when things go wrong or like when awful, like, you know, like,
Yes.
because people will also say stuff to your face that you cannot, like, people can be so rude to your face in a way, like with a smile on, and they think that you don't get it. You know what I mean? And there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I can't wait to put that, like, I can't wait to put this somewhere, you know? So,
Yeah.
I'll often, I feel like writers are often little thieves, you know, it's like we're just always thieving from our lives. And like, you know, if I'm writing a script or something, it'll just be like a little sprinkle of this madness, you know, like just things that are, you know, Debbie, you and I have experienced so many like crazy things that like, you know, you just take a little sprinkle of this sort of fun Looney Tunes experience and this, and it's like a fun, healthy way to something that might hurt my feelings that I can put it without malice, but like I can add it to a character, like a funny
Yeah.
character and something like I do sort of. It's a way for me to deal when because I always have delayed reactions. I never have a good comeback in the moment. So it's
Oh,
like
same.
it's a good way for me to process. Like I'll just sort of gather the little things that I can't believe people have said, or even if it's like a heartbreak or something like a real, you know, like a loss or a feeling like in a more serious way, like even though you don't want to like live in that forever, I think it's the human experience that to come from a place of honesty, if you can tap into that feeling and start from there when you're writing something, like I definitely am aware that as a lot of things have happened in my life that you can't help if you don't numb it. There is a certain grace of making art. Bless you, of making art
I
from
really
that
thought I muted
feeling.
it. I was desperately reaching for the mute button and I was like, this is happening.
No,
You have
I'm
a
Right.
glad
cute
we heard that.
sneeze.
I'm really
You have
glad
a
we heard
cute sneeze.
This is this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing when I'm on mute.
that.
Anyway, so that's, yeah, I like to just sort of, you know, make things from where I'm at. That also helps. It's also sort of my own personal like therapy. Like it helps me process what's happening in my life.
Yeah, sort of repurposing things or like making a
Yeah.
little mosaic or yeah, the
Yeah.
concept which we've talked about of like God doesn't waste pain. And
Yeah.
so if it's like if pain doesn't have to be wasted, then in this
Yeah.
moment I might be just like vibrating with like anger or whatever and then
Yeah.
I'm going to like sit on the shower floor for 30 minutes and think about what I should have said and
Yeah.
then I'm going to like put it somewhere and do something with it. But
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, the experience as you're experiencing it is interesting. Katelyn, what about you?
I mean, I feel like even Arden, as you were talking about owning, kind of like owning your story, owning your stuff, like I feel like that's been a big thing for me too in the past, you know, during COVID is like in my creative process and like taking every single, like if I hear something, if I make a joke, if I hear something that like, I don't know, makes me feel or think or laugh, like I'll write it down. And like a lot of times those are the things that have become my songs. Like, and I've started to see how valuable it is to like have like a collection of, you know, and because like for songs, like you said, it's like shorter lines of like, and they all have to kind of, get to the point really quickly. So I do feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of a like, if I hear something in a mid conversation, I'm like trying to listen and write it down, like, because I don't want to forget it. Because I do feel like those are the things that are, I don't know, that make, whether it's a song or a book or a script or whatever, like that, like you said, it makes it feel relatable. It like connects. Like that's what connects us, are all these like feelings that we all have. And I can get, really obsessed with like, how do I put the things in songs that are going to be like immediately something that's like, oh, I've thought that before, and usually that comes from, stuff you're just saying in conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. Or that other people say, or that you're like,
yeah.
How did that person give me a compliment, but now I feel really small? Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
What did they just put on that? Like,
do they hate me?
Yeah. Do I hate me? Am I projecting? What's going on?
I mean, sometimes, do I hate me? Sometimes,
sometimes,
I mean, by the way, if anyone's gonna hate me, get out of the way. Like,
excuse me, I gotta get back to my shame hole, ma'am.
Ma'am, I actually spend the most amount of time with me, and if anyone could tell you all of the ways I'm hateable, it's me.
Ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am. Things are so good, ma'am.
I'm crazy, ma'am. I'm crazy.
I'm just crazy busy, ma'am.
Crazy.
The third question that I wanted to ask you guys and just sort of really get into, and this can be very quick, or you can expand upon it as much as you would like, but I have watched both of you go through a lot of phases mentally and emotionally and relationally and in career, and it feels that you guys have such a great balance of identity. And if there were, like I obviously like grew up doing this, Kate, you did too. Like there's like when I'm like in there's so much of my life I'm embarrassed of. There's so much of my life that I like wish that I could be like, oh, I wish you didn't have to do that on camera. Like just people saw you awkward and weird and figuring out how to do an interview on a carpet. Like no one told me how to do that. And anyway, so all of that to say, and then Arden, you touched on this a little bit in your book, and I know that you have been like this amazing source for me. What is something that you guys would tell your younger self if you could sort of just sit and have a conversation with maybe late teens, early 20s, whatever the average age of the listener is, but just really like if there was a moment in your life that I could think of a very particular like year in my life where I was really lost, really confused, and just so self-destructive, and I didn't have any value for myself or value for my opportunities or things and people in my life because I didn't have any respect for me. And it was almost like, if you believe in me, then I don't even respect you because I don't know why anyone would. And I was so destructive, and I during that time I wish I could go back, and there's so many things that I would tell my younger self. But I'm curious, what would you guys go back and tell your younger self or wish someone told you?
Arden?
Okay, I really relate to what you were saying, Debbie. I had so much shame. I think shame was like, I think I would say there's nothing wrong with you. You're absolutely lovable, just as you are. People can love you with some secrets from your family, like and things that that you were brought to hide, taught to hide, and that you didn't do anything wrong, and just like
Wow.
just that, like literally, there's nothing wrong with you. No matter what people have said to you about you, that's on them. That's not about you, and that it's also you're not hurting people if you shine, and that if people have a problem with you shining, that you don't need to hang out with them. Like that you shining doesn't hurt anybody, and that it's okay to stand up for yourself. And if something doesn't feel good or somebody doesn't feel good, like you don't need to put yourself in that position. And like go for it. My mom JJ, it was her birthday tomorrow, and she always
Love
was like,
JJ.
she was the best, and she loved Debbie, and like she always used to say like, you're the prize in the Cracker Jack box, and just like I just didn't know that, you know what I mean? And I feel like for anybody listening, I want to say to you, like, you're the prize in the Cracker Jack box of your life. Like, you're the prize, who you are as you are. We're all a work in progress. There's no there. You are lovable today. You are good enough today. Like, it's okay what you've been through. And like, go for it. Let your light shine. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Shame just held me down for years.
Truly, thank you, Arden. I literally like, I'm gonna like clip that and just listen to it every single morning.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I get into TM and that can be my mantra. Like,
that'd be good.
I mean, you're not hurting anyone by shining, and stand up for yourself if it doesn't feel good, and you don't have to like put up with people. I mean, hugely like, you're not, it's sort of like what we were talking about earlier, like take ownership over the space that you're in. Like, you're not hurting anyone by shining, and if someone says something's wrong with you, that's about them, that's not about you. Like, those are lessons that I still am desperate to internalize.
I'll tell you a huge, I'm also really bad at confrontation. So it's also not about me going to the people it's not about people like, no, you don't get it. I'm shy. It's just like literally elegantly, like giving a wide berth and being like, not for me. Like just taking a step to the left. Like, I don't need to go fight with those dragons. Like, that's their problem. I don't need to make a big thing about it. I can just cross to the other side of the street. Like, I don't need to fight all of them and tell them how great I am. Like, I can just know that, like, take my little Mary Poppins kit and keep going. Like, that's their loss.
Huge.
Love it. This is like, randomly, I'm like, I put so much emphasis on this question because I'm just like, what would I tell my younger self? Because I feel like, like you said, Debbie, it's like I've been in this industry a while too. There are definitely things I look back on that I'm just like, oh my God, like, what was I thinking? And it can be embarrassing and kind of like, I don't know, like send you down a road that's just like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Or like, what if it would have been different? Like, what if I would have been more like this, more like this? And I think, I don't know, I feel like I've just tried to make peace with like my path or like my journey so far, and kind of look back at my younger self and be like, you were just doing what you knew, what you thought was best at the time. Like, there's, and not like putting a ton of weight on like, oh, like, I wish I would have known this. Because also, like, I don't think you can know things until there's hindsight. Like, obviously you can look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have done this. And, for the sake of the question, it is like, oh yeah, what would you have known? And I think a lot of the things I would maybe say is just like, trust your gut. Like, stop depending on so many outside opinions to like give you meaning or make you feel like you're going down the right path. Like, but that can still be stuff that I'm working through today. And so it's like, how do you, I don't know, like have a little grace on your younger self and just kind of like, not be so worked up with like, oh, I wish I would have known this. Cause it's like, you had to go through that to get where you are today and to have the perspective that you are today. And like, I almost think about that now and looking forward. It's like, oh, I'm sure there's going to be things in like 10, 15 years that I look back on that I think now that I would have been like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have thought that or done that. And that's just like growth and life. And it's like up and down. And I don't know. Like, I think
mean, contentment is a gift, and striving for that and being like, no, like move forward and don't rehash it. I think that's, and just like, you were doing what you knew at the time. So trust yourself because it got you to where you are. Like, that's also really valuable. And just being like, yeah, you have it. It's in you. Like, you have it. You had it. And like, you'll be okay.
I would also say, like, have some fun. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about it.
Yes.
Like, you'll get everything done. Like, stay out a little later. Go to your friend's birthday. Even if you have to get up, just like go on that road trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, just have some fun. Have some like go dancing. Like, that's, I think I would say that too.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
good.
Take the pressure off. There's no like right or wrong path that you're like in danger of, like, you know, if you do this, you're going to mess everything up forever. It's like there can be this like really intense, like, oh, like I got to get, or at least for me, there was like, I have to get everything right. I have to like make all the
Yeah.
right decisions so that I'm on this perfect path. So my life is perfect forever. Like it's
Right.
just, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like take the pressure off, try to enjoy, you know, the place you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey girl, there's gonna be a pandemic. Go on the road trip. Like,
Yeah.
Go on
So
the road trip.
hey
stay
girl,
Go on
out.
go
the road
dancing. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's interesting because I feel like I had two modes, which was like trying to get everything perfect
Mhm.
or being like I've tried to get everything perfect and like I still don't have these opportunities, or I am still lonely, or my mom still has cancer, or like whatever.
Right.
So why does it matter? And I'm
Right.
just going to throw it all away. And like that also is not
Right.
great. I think like that balance and being like, let's like do the best that we can with what we have and not. I think this should as well. Like if there's not one perfect path and you don't have to like, defer to other people. Like Katelyn, like what you were saying too about being
Mhm.
like, ugh, like I think for so long I was just like, great, tell me what the movie is to audition for. Tell
Yeah.
me like what
Right.
my next move is. And then I
Right.
was just like, no, like I know and I have it within me and there's like 1,000 ways to do this and I'm figuring it out all the
Yeah.
time and it's not my fault if it doesn't, yeah, like give yourself
Yeah.
some grace and then like if you do something, do it right, do it well, do it with excellence, and then give yourself time to hang, be a
Yeah.
person. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. Well, I would say the last question that I have is sort of similar, but I've sort of talked with you both separately about this, and I'm really curious what you guys would like to share about this because essentially, I am not. I'm on a journey of constantly trying to be better at boundaries, and that can be something like being on set and being like, no, I already decided that this is what I feel comfortable wearing, and you know, whatever blocking this way feels to me to be exploitative. Like, here is my boundary, this is my line. And there are some ways in my life where I'm able to do that. There's some ways in my life where I'm able to be like, hey, don't talk to me like that. Like, I don't know who you think you are, but like human beings talk to human beings like human beings. Like, there is a base level of respect, like to anyone that we talk to, and I will not accept being talked to like that. Like, that's something I can do. But boundaries with like other people, like I can be so tired and people could be like, we can stop hanging anytime, and I just like don't draw the line and like stuff like that. Or going to someone's birthday party that I'm like, I think that we all know that we're not really friends, but I feel bad saying no. Why can't I say this? And those boundaries, but then also boundaries with myself, making a commitment and saying, let's do a little bit of this so that we can do a little bit of this. Or that sort of making a decision in advance so that you don't have to negotiate with it in the moment, both with other people but also with yourself. When you are both the yes voice and the no voice, you're the one that's like, just a little won't hurt, and the one that's like, but that makes you a bad person if whatever, have dessert every night this week or something like that. Like those sort of stories that tell ourselves, which I think also can be as innocuous as dessert and etc., or it can be like truly life altering in a way that if we don't draw boundaries and if we don't make a decision about who we are and what we want and where our line is in advance, like can really affect our interactions. So my question with y'all is, in terms of boundaries, do you find that it's easier to set boundaries with yourself or with others? And like, what makes it easier? What is like helpful for you in first setting and then second upholding a boundary? Like what are some like guideposts there?
I'm gonna hop in because I have to go at 12:45, which is devastating because I'm
Oh
loving chatting
no.
with you guys. But I love this topic so much, and as a like born and bred people pleaser, like to the nth degree, like um I've allowed that. I allow myself to change my mind and to know that sometimes I still agree to things I don't want to do. And then afterwards, again, listening to my body, if I say yes to something and then if my body's like, oh, I don't want to do that, like I allow myself to, after the fact, call up and just gracefully say like, hey, I know I said I was going to be there, but like, if you're just being honest, like, I'm just really overextended right now, and I'm just really limiting what I'm allowing myself to change my mind, even if I've already committed. Because I sort of leave my body, Debbie, as you were like, I just check out and say yes. And so I often have to do cleanup of my own obligations that I've set up. And so it's like, but I do think my body's a good barometer of like, I know if I want to do it or not. And then a good thing for my own setting boundaries with myself, because I'm also kind of a rascal. Like I will push it. I want to stay up too late. I want all the dessert. I want to like, even if I'm tired, you've traveled with me. Like
that's what I mean. I'm the same.
So it's also, sometimes I'm like, that's good. That means I'm having fun. Like, okay, so I'm tired, and then, allowing like, all right, I stayed up too late or I ate too much. Like, okay, like, did you have a good time? Like, so you're human, who cares, But then if it's starting to take its toll on me in a negative way, sometimes I will write out my day in advance as if it already happened, like with a positive outcome, so that I can sort of write out me sidestepping the booby traps. So, I'll be like, I was whatever, whether like I was on set and they wanted me to do this thing. And even though I was uncomfortable and nervous, I took a pause and I said, that's not going to work for me. Like I'll write it out in a way that it was successful, or that I've already made my choices as to like trying to be proactive in my life instead of reactive. So I've set my course and I'm not just allowing everybody else to ping pong like my day. And the final
That's such
thing,
a good idea. That's such a good tool.
it's helpful because it's almost, I think of it like an athlete that's like played the game in advance, like, and it's like a positive outcome. It feels not chaotic. And then the final thing that was so helpful to me was I heard the phrase, an invitation is not a subpoena. Just because somebody asks, it doesn't mean
wow.
it's a subpoena and I have to go do it.
Wow.
So, an invitation is not a subpoena.
I love that. A very good rule to live by. I love you and I'm going to let you go. But first, I'm going to send you off the way that I have to send you off, which is, can you just quickly tell us what you're grateful for?
Oh my God, I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful for my new friend, Katelyn.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for these beautiful, like truly community. Like I'm truly grateful I was so happy to get this invitation. Like I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful to get to know you, Katelyn, and just for people that are creative and speaking from the heart, like the connection of being like a human on earth. Like I'm so grateful that I got to do this today. So that's what I'm grateful for.
What a gift. You're a gift. I love you.
I love you. I'm sorry I have to go. Don't be jealous. I'm in Reno.
Oh.
I'm jealous.
Do your thing.
Okay,
I'm in Chattanooga. Bye. Love you.
Love you guys. Bye. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Okay, Katelyn, stay with me.
Okay, I'm here. I'm still here.
All right. Talk to me about boundaries. Because I feel like Arden definitely has found some great tools at this point.
Yeah, no, I feel like I am like, maybe I shouldn't even speak on this topic because no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I feel like I'm still very much figuring that out for myself, with others, with myself, and I don't know. I mean, what it just makes me think of is just the more I can get to know myself, the more I can figure out like what, when I'm feeling not good in a situation and being like, oh, like that doesn't feel good to me. What is that telling me? Like, how can I, kind of take in this information for next time? And I don't know what she said about honesty of just like, I don't know. I always really respect that. If like someone's just like, hey, I'm really sorry, I don't really have the capacity to do this, or I'm not feeling it or whatever. Like I always can respect when someone's just being upfront. And that never like bothers me, just because it's like, well, can't really argue with that. And I think the more you can know yourself, the more you can maybe do that more easily.
Totally.
Know myself. I know I'm not going to be, I don't want to overextend. I don't want to push myself, because then it's like, what's the point of even doing something if you're not going to, be happy to be there or be operating at 100%. It's like,
Yeah. Well, and what you just said too about like when someone else does it, when someone else says like this is what I want or I'm at capacity or this doesn't make sense, like people totally
mhm.
respect it. I feel like sometimes the biggest story that I tell myself that really doesn't allow me to protect myself and like the
Yeah,
truth is like, well, what if I upset people? What if they hate me? What if they think I'm a
right,
snob or what if they,
right.
you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah,
like, oh, well, like
yeah,
if someone did it to me, like someone did, you know, you and I both sit the same way. If someone goes, oh, cool, this is my boundary, then we go, that's cool that they know themselves and do that. I'm going to respect that. Like, no part of us is like, what a dick. So,
right.
like,
No, exactly. You're
so
more
like, yeah,
likely to
we'll be
say
fine.
what a dick if it's like a response that's like a little more like, or either like no response or a fake one, or just kind of like
Yeah.
trying to dodge it. I think that's, it's hard because like Arden said, and like you were, it's like there's I think within all of us a degree of like not wanting to upset people or
Mm-hmm.
rock the
Yeah.
boat or ruffle any feathers. But I don't know. I think it's for me, the more I like get to know myself and what feels right, the more I can like do that.
Yeah. And I think that's huge too about like the pandemic is like it did allow us to sort of, like you were saying in the very beginning, like refocus on ourselves and like spend time with like, okay, what's coming in and what's going out and what am I bringing to this thing? And the more that you do, I think that's exactly it. Like that's the key is like the more that you know yourself, the more that you can bring yourself unapologetically into every situation. And then again, like what you bring in is not like resentful because you said yes, but you didn't really want to, or
Right.
awkward and uncomfortable because you don't really know this person, but you did the
Yeah,
thing anyway. Like it's
right.
just a very honest, it's like the kinder thing for everyone for you to operate within like what is true and good for you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So it's just about creating space to learn what that is, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's a process. Like that takes time. I think like getting older like helps with that too. It's just like
Yeah,
it's not as like I don't know, it's not as difficult I find, but yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to tell me what you're
Yeah.
grateful for?
Oh my God. I feel like I feels cheesy, but I do feel very grateful for music.
Nice.
um I don't know. I think like I've made this album and it was such a like creatively fulfilling process, and I don't know, I just feel like I tapped into like so many parts of myself that and I'm sharing it in these songs, and I feel like it was just so exciting for me to get to do that, and I feel so proud of it. And I think even just appreciating that in my favorite musicians and my favorite songwriters, and feeling so grateful for the medium as a whole of just like I love that music exists, and I love that like songs exist that like make me feel seen and understood and like less alone. I don't know, I just am feeling like extra grateful for it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, just being able to be around it, you know, and being able to
Yeah.
like, even just, I feel like, because when you are doing it so much or you're constantly around it, it's easy to like forget, you know, it's easy to just have that relationship with it. And so to just be a consumer, like, there's such a nice thing that happens when I just like put on a new album and I'm like, let me listen to Katelyn's new song. And like,
Yeah.
then you consume it in a way where you're moved by it and it really resets your relationship with it. Or at least for me, it's been quite a delight. I'm so excited
Yeah.
for your album.
Thanks, girl.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
girl.
excited too. I'm excited. But
Well,
yeah, I wasn't trying to parlay that into promo, but it did work.
but it is available for pre-order if
But
you
it
guys
is
want
available
to
for pre-order. It's available on vinyl, and there's merch.
get the merch.
um,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm grateful for you and thanks for being down to do this.
Oh my,
And
thank you so much for
um,
having me.
yeah, I love you. And
Ah,
tell David I said hey, and
I
I want to see you
will.
whenever I'm home.
I know. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. This was so much fun. And down to do it anytime.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day. You guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to this whole conversation, I'm going to post it on my page.
Yes.
I hope everyone has a really, really good weekend, and I will be updating with my next one of these rooms. It might be my final one, so you guys don't want to miss it. Caitlin, thank
Ooh.
you again for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Debbie. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Thanks for
Bye,
listening.
guys. Thanks.